here at the Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024, and we have seen a lot of new concept cars being unveiled by Indian companies as we see the EV revolution take place in India. We have with us Shashank Stivastava, Senior Executive Officer, Sales and Marketing for Maruti Suzuki. Hello, sir. Welcome. Good afternoon. Maruti Suzuki has not yet released any dedicated electric vehicle in India as of now. What we see behind us is a concept car unveiled by Maruti Suzuki based on an all-electric dedicated platform. Could you tell us some details about this concept?
Yes, so this is the concept car called EVX. Will be our first electric vehicle. It's called Born Electric because it's designed grounds up for being an electric vehicle. It's got a 60 kilowatt battery, which means it's got a long range, 550 kilometer plus range. So that's significant because consumers want that sort of range. The reason why, and we'll be launching it in the next financial year, 2024. We're also, by the way, exporting it to Europe and Japan as well. The reason why we are coming into this segment now is primarily two reasons. First reason is, of course, that at the moment in our country, the charging infrastructure is not fully developed, and customers are therefore having what is known as range anxiety. We don't want to inconvenience the customer but at a time when if our charging infrastructure is not fully ready. So we are making the preparations accordingly, and we are hoping that by the time we launch it. The second thing is that we have found from our research that once the EV penetration in any country goes beyond 4.55%, that's the time when the adoption rate increases. Currently, we are at a penetration level of about 2.1%, and therefore, in the next couple of years, we should reach that inflection point when we can see a much bigger adoption of the EVs, which is projected to go up to 20% by 2030. So I think it's the right time for Maruti Suzuki to come into the EV space next year.
Now we know that government subsidies and incentives on electric vehicles have been being tapered. The government has been tapering these incentives over the past few years. Despite that, we see tremendous growth in the EV sector. Why is that, and how do you see the Indian market reacting to what could be a potentially great vehicle in terms of sales for Maruti Suzuki next year?
Yeah, so first of all, I think there is no tapering down of incentives from the government. Actually, there has been a ramping up. The biggest incentive, of course, that EVs are at 5% GST, whereas the other vehicles similar vehicles will be at about 43-45% GST. So that's a substantial difference. In fact, in most countries, whether it's China or Germany or France or UK, it's been observed that the growth of the EVs was largely fueled by this push from the government, both on the regulatory side as well as on the incentive side. And in some countries where it was withdrawn, like in Germany and in China, there has been a temporary negative effect on the overall sales of the EVs. So government incentives are very essential for continuing this progress, and we are just starting off in India. So I think it's good because with the EVX, when we come in, surely those benefits come to us also, and that's obviously helpful in bringing down the cost of acquisition to the customer. And one of the reasons why, apart from the charging infrastructure, that the EVs adoption has been slow in our country is because the cost of acquisition is very high. So anything which the government does to reduce the cost of acquisition, and they have done a lot of things and measures, will help in increasing the EV penetration. The battery localization, for example, and we saw how the government is supporting the localization of the battery components and the battery itself.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, given my next question was going to be regarding the battery of the
Okay.
EVX platform. Can you tell us a bit more about the battery? Are there any details that
So
are
we
in
had
the
announced
works?
it actually last year itself that we have a 60 kilowatt battery, roughly translating into a 550 kilometer sort of range. And you might be aware that Suzuki has invested almost 10,000 crores for the localization and production of battery and its components in India, in Gujarat. And I believe that will help us very much in localizing the battery and keeping a very competitive cost for our consumers so that the EV revolution truly picks up in our country.
Thank you so much for speaking with NDTV, sir.
Thank you.
Ishaan Arora with camera person Xavier Thomas for NDTV.